ancient sacred text today is from the book of Matthew, chapter 2, verse 1 to 12. After Jesus' birth, which happened in Bethlehem of Judea, during the reign of Herod, astrologers from the east arrived in Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the newborn ruler of the Jews? We observed his star at its rising, and he had come to pay homage." At this news, Herod became greatly disturbed, as did all of Jerusalem. Summoning all of the chief priests and religious scholars of the people, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem of Judea," they informed him. "Here is what the prophet has written. And you, Bethlehem, land of Judea, are by no means least among the leaders of Judah, since from you will come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Herod called the astrologers aside and found out from them the exact time of the star's appearance. And then he sent them to Bethlehem after having instructed them, "Go and get detailed information about the child. When you have found him, report back to me so that I may go and offer homage too." After their audience with the ruler, they set out. The star which they had observed at its rising went ahead of them until it came to a standstill over the place where the child lay. They were overjoyed at seeing the star, and upon entering the house, found the child with Mary, his mother. They prostrated themselves and paid homage. Then they opened their coffers and presented the child with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They were warned in a dream not to return to Herod, so they went back to their own country by another route. La palabra de Dios.
Gracias a Dios.
Well, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
There we go. I hope you had a lovely holiday season. We're getting back into the swing of things now. Brian, Kamal, and I went to Minnesota for the season. We flew out on Christmas Day. We flew back on New Year's Eve. And we had a lovely time. Sometimes it feels like when we go on vacation, or even more so when we go home to Minnesota, where both of our families are from, we kind of enter into this other vortex. Like, it's just like time with family, you know, kind of like time suspends, and you're just kind of riding the wave of being with people. But there was one thing this year that kind of jolted me out of that vortex. I received a push notification on my phone. Maybe some of you received a similar one. And it said, "The Supreme Court of Colorado," maybe you know where I'm going, "just ruled that Trump cannot be on the ballot in Colorado." So first I was like, yeah, he can't be president again because of calling blah, blah, blah. And then, so I was so excited first. And then that was immediately followed by fear. I felt scared. Like, what will the reaction be of his followers? Will there be upheaval? Will there be unrest? And then finally, I felt a little bit deflated. Like, oh, I remember this feeling. This feeling of fear and uncertainty, right? Of, you know, almost the fear of like, I don't want to get that push notification. As we watch our public institutions weaken, wondering how our democracy will make it through the next election and whatever follows. Wondering to what lengths this leader, Trump, will go to grasp and hold on to power. Not the feelings that one wants to be having on your week off or your week with your family. I wonder if any of you maybe have a similar feeling. But ironically, these liturgically, with our season, our calendar year in the church, are appropriate feelings to be having. Our text for Epiphany today is King Herod. It is front and center. He is willing to go to great lengths to grasp and hold on to his power. Actually, the text doesn't fully mention it, but it gives us some clues. If you were here on Christmas Eve, you might have heard me talk about immediately following this text. After the wise ones leave Bethlehem and they go a different way, Herod doesn't know where to find the Messiah, the new baby. So instead of finding Jesus and trying to kill one baby, he just issues a protocol to have all babies under 2 killed in Bethlehem. All baby boys. He was also, not only that, but he was perfectly willing to torture and kill his political opponents, including some of his own sons and one of his wives. He also was very paranoid. He changed succession plans multiple times. So this is the context in which the empire, the empirical context in which Jesus was born. And we can compare this then to a leader who was willing to call his followers to an insurrection following an election that he didn't win. A leader who seems not to care at what cost his power comes, the weakening of democracy, not at the cost of clouding the truth, not at the cost of even just basic decency. But we all know this. I won't dwell here. What happened for me then, when I received this notification, was that it brought me back to remembering where I was. You know, I was in this vortex of time with my family, but I was also situated in a particular time and place, which is where we are currently in our world. It's a process that Buddhist theologian and scholar Joanna Macy, she calls it the Great Unraveling. This process in which many of our systems, human-made and ecological, are beginning to fray, are beginning to unravel, or are in the process of unraveling, or have even already collapsed, much as many of, you might remember, the coral reefs, for example, off of the coast of Florida, 80% of which died over the summer after a water heat wave. Another word for this is polycrisis. Polycrisis, that's a more scholarly word. The intersecting of various crises, and I think that this is where we are, and that in 2024, we will experience this even more deeply in this election year in our country. Polycrisis. I'm going to just name a few. Hold on. Weakening of democracy and public infrastructures, ecological collapse and increasing temperatures, increasing costs of living, increasing global conflicts, increasing mental health crises, loneliness, pandemics, misinformation, mistrust of facts, erosion of social cohesion and norms, polycrisis. All of these things frame unraveling. And in some ways, it's important that these things do unravel. In some ways, we're in a scary time, like, oh my goodness, what is going to happen? On the other hand, do we really want this empire, these systems of oppression, to guide our relationships with one another, and to the land, and to the spirit forever? I'm a little lost. Here we go. So when it does change, this big change that we know is coming, whether it happens quickly or more slowly, we know that what we have is each other. And spirit, our connection to the sacred, and we have this earth. It strikes me that this earth knows. This earth sees the things that have been happening. Hanel has one of these books. It's a book about the redwood. He has one of these books. He has lots of books. One of his books is about the redwood trees. And the redwood trees that grow on the coast of Oregon and the Pacific coast of California, they can grow to be 2,000 years old. The time of the Roman Empire, the time of Jesus. And since that time, since the time of Jesus, literally there may have been a seedling at the time that Jesus was a seedling. And they've seen it all. They've seen colonization. They've seen the Crusades. They've seen slavery. And they're still here. And with any luck, they will continue to be here for millennia to come. And so the Magi are Zoroastrian priests from over 2,000 years ago. They followed that star when the redwoods were also still here. I just find this mind-blowing. Not all that important to this sermon, but I'm still like, wow. They followed a star through empire, through uncertainty. They were called by a leader to talk to him and to be able to say, tell us where you find this child. Very treacherous time. But they followed that star, and they found the child. And then they listened to their dreams. They heard in a dream not to tell Herod where the child was, and to go home a different way. And that is what they did. The Magi read the stars and listened to dreams. So I think about the stars of this polycrisis. All of the things, those signs that we can read. And I look around our world at what is happening. And I listen closely to my subconscious, to my body, to my dreams. And what I intuit is also that great unraveling that Joanna Macy speaks to. But the story that we have for today doesn't end with unraveling. Not of spirit. Not the unraveling of spirit. It ends with a star. We have a star to follow. We still have spirit. We still have our sacred groundwater. We have our sacred earth. We have one another. And this unraveling, if we are able to withstand it with one another, can lead, Joanna Macy says, to a great turning, a great shift. And it must lead to this great turning. And we know this because our ways of being right now are unsustainable. So I don't believe that 2024 is going to be an easy year for us to live through. And I don't think that this unraveling that we are witnessing and experiencing will end in 2024 or shift to a turning in 2024. But I do think that we are in a portal of deep change. And that like any change, the only way is through. So like the Magi, we are navigating a tenuous, uncharted, dangerous terrain. But also like the Magi, we are following a star. Like the Magi, we know that a child has been born. A light, illuminating liberation from all the powers that oppress us. From the rulers who grasp power at any cost. From the ideas and the institutions that keep us small and divorce us from spirit. So each of us have received a star this morning, and if you haven't, there they are. You can come grab one, please.
Right now?
Yeah, you can grab it now, yes. Or you can grab it later. Yeah, come grab your star. Tell us what you got. What did you get, Joe?
Let go. Sweat hot.
Ooh, let go.
Deepen.
Deep.
Everybody knows that's appropriate.
Very good.
Promise.
Promise. Me too, that's what I have.
Reflect.
Reflect. So we received a star this morning with your word written on it for the year. And my question, as we move into one-to-ones, and let's see, is anyone not familiar with one-to-ones? Do I have to do my spiel? Okay, one-to-ones. This community, thank you, has a tradition of turning to one another. We trust that the sacred is not only in me who says these words, but it's within each of us. And so we turn to one another and we talk about what we heard and what meaning we make of this. We're going to take about 10 minutes, maybe 5. I'll call you back when it's time. I'll give you about a minute warning. And we turn to one another. And it's also optional. This is a thing to know too. It's optional. We have tea, we have coffee, we have a beautiful garden. You can sit, you can walk. But the invitation is to talk about your star. And I have a question to prompt. My star is promise. So here, what do you need to blank to follow this star? What do you need to promise to follow this star? So look at your star. What do you need to let go to follow this star of love and liberation? What do you need to reflect on? What do you need to befriend?